Hi, good morning. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Rogers Gardens live stream. My name is Sarah Smith. If you've never tuned in before, on Thursdays I introduce to you what the plant of the week is here at Rogers Gardens. So this whole entire summer we have been doing a Hummingbird Summer program where we have all kinds of really beautiful hummingbird feeders, all kinds of amazing hummingbird attracting plants. We have them all gathered together in one central area here at Rogers, and the hummingbird activity is simply magical. Every single morning I walk through there, and the hummingbirds and the monarch butterflies are just, it's amazing. It's like being at a sanctuary. It's absolutely fantastic. Even the butterflies, there's so many of them, and they're so uninterested in what I'm doing and only in each other that they bump into me. It's so funny. Like I literally was like knocked by 4 butterflies at once the other day, and it was just like the funniest thing. And the hummingbirds are just going bonkers, especially in the morning. There's so much activity. If you haven't come in yet, or you're waiting to come in, I suggest coming in the morning because the activity is absolutely crazy. In fact, here's one right now. They're just so amazing. So that's one of our lovely little monarchs. I paid her to show up. But yeah, it's really, really a fun time here in the garden. All of the plants that hummingbirds love are gorgeous. Hummingbirds would be the best gardeners in the world because they really like beautiful, really kind of low maintenance plants for the most part. So the plant I'm going to be talking to you about this week is actually commonly called butterfly bush. The botanical name, it's funny, some people say buddleia, some people say buddleia. I think it just depends on maybe your dialect, but I say buddleia. But there are these beautiful plants that I have here in front of me. Sometimes they call them summer lilac. It depends on where you live and what region you're from, what the common name is. That's why common names are great because they're much easier, obviously, than to say Latin names. But however, it changes from area to area. So knowing a botanical name is really important. Absolutely. So we around here typically call this butterfly bush. Beautiful, beautiful flower. The butterflies adore it. The hummingbirds love it. It's so beautiful. It smells fantastic. It's so pretty. It comes in a variety of different kinds of sizes. Most of the ones I have here are the like little tinier ones, but some of these can get really, really large. So it's really versatile. If you're like, that's beautiful, I love it. It's a perennial. It's year round. It doesn't lose its leaves. It doesn't go deciduous. It has a little bit of an awkward dormant time when it's really, really cold, but here in Southern California, it doesn't get that cold. So we're really lucky. So if you're looking for a really large shrub to fill up a space or something cute to kind of fill in between maybe some roses, this is a perfect plant for you. The one that we're going to get a lot of that's so pretty is called Hot Buzz Raspberry. Isn't that such a pretty color? And they smell so good. It's funny. I kind of think that they smell like King's Hawaiian bread. Everybody thinks either some people smell it and they're like, yes. And some people smell it and say, no. But it smells so good. The smell, I can smell it just from here holding it, especially because on a warm day, that smell really wafts through. Each one of these flowers that's on here is filled with nectar. We had some of this cut over in one of our booths just in a vase, and all the different pollinators from bees to the hummingbirds to the butterflies were all coming up, and it was so funny. You can see them stick their little tongue down there and take all the nectar out of here. So it's so beautiful. You always have a stem with the one central main flower on it, and then you'll see the little side flowers here too. So there is a little trick to deadheading it. So I brought one here that I can show you how to deadhead. But this one here is called the Hot Buzz. This is a smaller variety. It's not the compact ones. When you're reading the names, even just the names will tell you. Some are called microchip, so you know they stay really small. This one's called Pugster Blue, which I think that name is just too funny. Pugster Blue. So this is obviously a smaller variety. This one's kind of a medium variety, about 2 feet. wide and tall with it. They really, really like full sun. They like good drainage. These actually are native to China and some parts of Japan. But but they want good sun, they want good drainage. They don't really require a lot when it comes to fertilizer or anything. This one here is Miss Violet. So again, those Miss names and things like that, you know that they're going to stay a little bit on the small. Some of them will stay a little bit on the smaller side. Always look at the tags. Too. This one's about 4, so some will get 8, 12. This one's about 4.5. The Pugster I think is even smaller than the raspberry. So smaller flower on this little Miss Violet though, and some of this needs to be deadheaded. So I'm going to grab my pruners right here and I'm going to show you how to deadhead them. When you're deadheading, basically what that means is you're cutting off the spent flowers. So part of it's just to make it look pretty, to make it look attractive. Nobody wants to look at the dead flowers on the plant. But when you deadhead things, what's really nice is they will flower more. So plants are putting out flowers to attract the pollinators, to set seed, and if they have a lot of dead spent flowers on them, the plant in a way thinks, okay, my job is done and I don't need to set any more flowers out. So deadheading keeps it flowering more, also keeps the size really nice and compact. So I'm going to deadhead this one for you so you can kind of see how to do it. It's very, very simple, but you're just going to look for the dead flower. As you follow along the stem that dead flower is on, you'll see 2 little leaflets that pop out on either side, and you will usually see, like here's a good example you can see on here, you can see 2 little flowers too. So you're just going to cut right above those little flowers there, those little beautiful florets, and then they will actually produce some more flowers there. And now that one will actually open up faster. These will open up without deadheading, but if you cut this one off, so when this one is done, these will flower faster and better for you. So all you got to do is go through and just kind of clip them off. It's not totally necessary. If you don't want to be too fussy, that's totally fine, but it does help it. And also that's a good time when you're doing it to kind of look at the plant overall and go, do I like the direction that this is growing? So it's also a good chance to kind of look at it and figure out, maybe I want to keep this a little bit tighter. Maybe this one branch is getting kind of crazy. It's a good opportunity to cut that back and make your decisions on how you want this to grow. But it's really a simple plant, very drought tolerant too once it gets established. Will work well in pots. Just really be aware of what variety you have and how big it gets, so you have the appropriate size pot. You don't want to plant one of those 8 feet tall guys in a tiny little pot. Eventually it's not going to be happy. So you want to really make sure that if you're going to do one like this one gets 4 feet tall, you want to make sure that you have a pretty sizable pot for that. Would work really well with some companion planting around it, especially if you want to do something that's all pollinator attractors. You can plant maybe some like really that cute little compact lantana around the bottom of it. Even that evolvulus blew my mind, would be so pretty. These all come typically in like shades of blues, purples. There's a really, really dark one I think is called like something night, but spelt night like in shining armor. And it's like a dark purple color. And then there's even white varieties too. So you get whites, purples, pinks, blues, really, really deep dark purples that are just so, those dark purple ones are so pretty. But we have quite a few different varieties. So when you come in, you will see these down in the whole hummingbird collection area. They're absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite plants, the smell of it is just amazing. So come in and smell it and tell me if you think it smells like King's Hawaiian bread, because I think it does. It has almost this like beautifully sugary, kind of a little bit of a yeasty but floral smell. It's just absolutely fantastic. They're really, really beautiful plants. And again, it's super great to have something that both the hummingbirds and the butterfly like. So they do commonly call it here butterfly bush. The botanical is Buddleia, and just so many beautiful different varieties of it, and grows well in a container as well. So just make sure full sun. Watering, once it gets established, it's pretty drought tolerant. So would work really well if you do the large ones with like Cleveland sage and things like that, because they all have very similar water requirements and stuff as well. Of course, we're doing this live, so if any of you have any questions about anything, you can always use this time to ask me now. We will post these later on Facebook and on Instagram, even I believe on our YouTube page. Do they go on the YouTube? They do. Okay, awesome. So you can see them on the YouTube page there as well. If you have any friends that are really interested in hummingbirds and butterflies, make sure you tag them below so they can see this and see all the beautiful things we've got going on as well. And if you haven't signed up for our email, make sure you do that, because there's all kinds of amazing information there. You'll know about things first before anybody else. We have really amazing things coming up, like Halloween is coming up in September. Even Christmas even comes before Halloween official day happens. So it's just such a really fantastic time. I'm very excited about our Halloween that we have planned for you all. It's going to be really fantastic. Do we have any current questions right now?
Yes, we do.
Yep. Oh, here I have a Japanese beetle coming in to visit us. Thank you. Fantastic. Don't go in my hair. Okay. Goodbye. The beauty of doing things live, you guys. Okay, what are our questions?
All right. How do you prune after it stops blooming?
Yeah, so you're just going to follow the main stem. Like this guy's really, really bushy. Miss Violet tends to be very, very compact. So you're just following down the stems. This one is a really great one to kind of show you on. So I'm going to prop this up right here. So say that this flower was done, right, and it had nothing left to it. It's gone kind of brown. When they go brown, they look very similar to that, right? But this is on the little compact one. This isn't the Pugster. This is the Miss Violet. So the Miss Violet has a smaller flower. This Hot Buzz Raspberry, though, has a really nice big flower. So if this one was starting to look dead, I just hold on to the tip of it. I follow the stem along the plant, and usually you'll come down to two little leaflets that are coming out right there, and I would cut right there, right above that. So these two flowers now will have a chance to flower. I'm not going to cut this yet because it's still so beautiful, but these two little ones now the plant will put the energy into these, and that will force these to flower faster. If you did not cut any of it back and you just let it go, these would dry and the flowers would fall off. These would eventually flower and open up flower, but however, it would happen a lot slower and those flowers would be a lot smaller. If you're deadheading, that's letting the plant put its energy into the other flowers. So that makes those other flowers nicer. And also too, now that you've cut this, where you once had one tall stem that came out, now you have two. So it keeps the plant really compact and makes it fuller and bushier over time. And then, like I said, that's a really good time to kind of look at your plant. You've got your pruners in hand now. You can look at it and go, I don't like this one weird rogue branch, because sometimes that happens where like one branch just goes kind of crazy, and you can kind of decide, I want to keep this a little bit smaller, or this plant is growing too much into the rows I have it next to, or whatever. So it's a really good chance and opportunity to look at the plant and kind of make decisions on the shape of it at that time. But deadheading means you're just taking off that spent bloom. On all plants, you're typically following the stem down to the next set of leaflets. Maybe, for example, now that branch is the weird rogue branch and it's too tall, and you let that one flower. You don't have to go down to the next one below it. You can go wherever you want. So pruning is a little bit science and a little bit art, right? So you're looking at it and going, I know if I prune here, that's going to make these bigger, but maybe I don't want that branch over in the corner to be that big. You can go down to the next set of branches underneath that. You can keep going all the way down. Always cut between. And with this one, it's really nice because you've got your central branch, and then there's always two leaves that come out from it that have stems, and those have the potential to make flowers. So even if they don't have a flower going, that has a potential to make a flower there, and it's going to be two. So just always remember that when you're pruning these. So you don't have to go down to the next one if you don't want to. If you're trying to get it taller, that's what you want to do. But if you're trying to keep it compact, you can go down 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or all the way down to the bottom. So like I said, it's a little bit of an art and a little bit of the science, because if you know how it grows, then you can make better decisions on how you prune it. When it comes to fertilizing, I think I kind of skipped over that. Yeah. Fertilizing. They don't require a lot of fertilizer. The rose and flower is great for them. They like this higher middle number, especially during the spring and summer months. This is something that goes all the way from spring into fall. You'll still have flowers on these if you keep them deadheaded. If you don't keep them deadheaded, they're definitely going to slow down on their flower production. But our rose and flower one, they really, really like. They don't require a lot of it. They're not really particularly heavy feeders. But as I'm feeding my roses and things, which I do monthly, I just go ahead and throw a small cup. I don't give them as much as I give my roses. My roses, I usually give like a fourth a cup to about a half a cup. Most of them get a half a cup. They're a little spoiled in my house. But with these guys, I maybe do a fourth a cup or just kind of a small pinch around the bottom of it. But they don't need a whole lot of fertilizer to make them happy. And also too, by the way, I kind of have these spin around, but look how gorgeous our little stickers are. So all the things that are in our hummingbird garden area, there's a poster set up for them with a description of how they grow and what they do. And we also have these really, really fantastic stickers. They're so beautiful that we've put on everything. So it makes picking out your plants, if you're going for the hummingbirds, a lot easier, because you can pick it up and go, oh, got a sticker on, I know this is gonna work. So it's really kind of fun and really nice. And I can't resist. They smell so good. They're so fantastic. Any other questions?
Yes, the king companion plant. What type of plant is that?
Companion. See that one more time?
The king companion plant. What type of plant? Like, is it
king companion plant? I'm not sure what a king companion plant is.
Or night. Sorry, night.
Oh, yeah. No, so the night. It's actually not a companion plant. It's another type of the Buddleia. I think they call them forever night. I think there's one called dark night, I think is the one I'm thinking of, that's really, really deep. It's another type of Buddleia. I just don't have that one here right now. I know we've had it through the season. It's a much taller one, and it has a flower very darker than this. It's like, it is dark, almost black purple. It's absolutely beautiful. The flower tends to not be a tight little, because this one's the Pugster Blue, which I think the name's so cute because I like bugs. But it's a tighter, smaller, shorter flower, just kind of even, it's not as small as the Miss Violet. The Miss Violet's really small, but the Dark Night is a big flower like this, but the plant tends to get really, really large too. And we've had like Hot Buzz Raspberry, Hot Buzz Velvet, all different kinds. Companion planting basically just means finding a plant that's going to work well with your plant especially like when we're working in pots. So we talk about companion plants in so many different types of ways. So companion planting should be two plants that require similar amounts of water, similar kind of fertilizer, similar exposure. So they work well and they can be best buds. So they're companions, right? Also companion planting, we talk about when we're talking about doing vegetable gardening and things like that, where you're planting pollinators to come in and help pollinate your vegetable plants too. So you're just attracting extra pollinators and things into your garden. That's really important when you're doing things like zucchinis and tomatoes and things like that. You want something that's going to attract the bees and the pollinators, so then that way they pollinate all of your vegetables and your fruits as well, things like blueberries and things like that. We also talk about companion planting in the way, this is a little controversial, but in the way of distracting the bad bugs to the companion plants. I don't really think that works all that well, if I'm being super honest. A lot of times people will plant like marigolds with their tomatoes to keep the bad bugs towards the marigolds, or to reject the bad bugs. It's also done in that way. Plants aren't going to really reject plants or other pests and things like that necessarily. It's about the oils in the plants, and the oils in the plants are only released when you're agitating it, right? So people want things like, oh, what can I plant to keep the mosquitoes away, or to keep the flies away, or something like that? And my answer is kind of nothing. It's about the oil in the plants. So like things that people call citronella and things like that. There's different kinds of geraniums and their lemongrass and different types of eucalyptus that they call citronella. Citronella is kind of a big thing, but it's not really going to work to keep the mosquitoes away unless you're out there smacking those leaves and agitating it and get the oil in the air. That's the thing that really kind of distracts the bugs. But and also too, if it's something that you feel works for you, who am I to say not to do it? Because if you plant marigolds with your roses or your tomatoes every single year and you feel like that really helps your tomatoes, awesome. That's cute. They look adorable. It's such a traditional sort of thing that I still do it occasionally because it just adds some pop and pizzazz and makes my vegetable garden cuter. So yeah, go ahead and do it. If you love it, awesome. Do it. Any other questions?
Yes. How do you get these plants ready for the winter, and how low do you prune it for the winter?
Okay, that's a really good question. So we don't have really harsh winters here. So thankfully here in Southern California, we don't have to do a lot of prepping for the winter time. Thank goodness, because that would be a lot of work in my house. But so giving them a good, once they're done flowering, you can tell you're not really going to get any more flowers. That's the time when you really want to go out there and look at the plant and go, okay, my goal this year was my plant to fill up this area. Did I accomplish that goal? What did I do last year to get myself in the position where I'm really, really happy this year? You can also look at it and go, this didn't perform the way I wanted it to. I let it get too big. I maybe pruned it back too small. So you're always kind of looking at your plant and thinking about what did you do last year to get to where you are today. It's a really, really great time. I think the end of fall is such a really fantastic reflective time for gardeners to look at your plant and think, what is my goal for next year? How did I get to where I am this year? Was I happy with it? We have really beautiful journals and stuff, gardening journals. I think they're a really great thing to take advantage of. It's really good to look back and know what you did last year and what you're going to do differently this year. Because we don't have really harsh winters, we don't have to do a lot of preparation. But the winter time and really the end of fall is the time to look at your plant and really think about size. So say that you have this plant here and you looked at it and went, oh, this seems kind of small, 36 to 40 inches tall, and in your brain you're thinking that's a lot smaller than it is. I kind of do that a lot. So I'm talking from experience. I plant this plant and you know what? It got way too big and kind of blocked the rows that I had it in front of. So either now I've got to decide, am I going to move this plant because it's a good time to move things around? Maybe I need to move it to a different area. Or am I going to really work hard on keeping it smaller the next year? And you're going to look at the plant and you're going to cut that down. This is a perfect time to cut your plant down. It's not that you have to because we're worried about cold snaps or freezing or snow, because we don't deal with that. But it's a good time to cut it down and really think about the size of how you want it to be next year. And again, like I say, pruning is art and science. So you're looking at the plant, you're looking at the structure of the plant, say this is what I have going this year and I need to cut it back for next year. I've got 3 nice big branches on here and a couple little smaller ones here. Do I want to let it be tall and thin, or do I want to keep it small and compact? If I want to keep it small and compact, I'm going to go down the branch to this little secondary 2 little leaflets that come out on either side, and I'm going to cut there. And I know if I make bunches of cuts there, I'm going to have a lot of smaller little tiny branches. If I like it nice and tall, I'm going to maybe just cut some of the small stuff back to allow it to get taller. But it's not something you really have to necessarily overwinter. If you are somewhere where you're getting frost or you're getting snow and things like that, you're probably going to want to cut it back and probably mulch around it. I know a lot of times people will use straw and things like that, or even plastics, or just debris from fallen trees and stuff to keep the roots protected. I've never lived anywhere where it snows. So if that is the case, maybe check with your local gardener center or something and ask them for advice on that. Also, just to make sure in general that this lives in a place where you are living and it's, something different with the weather. If you're living someplace where it snows and freezes, I don't really know if these would actually make it. I would have to actually do a little bit of research on that. So I always tell people when people come in and go, will this live in the desert, or will this live, in Big Bear? I always have to look it up. The best thing that I tell people to do is grab yourself, and we have tons of copies here, grab yourself a Sunset Western guide. Look at what your zone is there. It's very different than the USDA zone because that really is like 1 through 13, and the Sunset one is like 1 through 30 or something like that. And it's very specific and only to Oregon and Washington, California, just our states right here. And that's always a really, really great way to know what your zone is there. And then any plant you can think of, you can look at what the Western zone is, the Western Sunset zone is for that, and know if it's going to do in your area. They take into account humidity and how close you are to the ocean, how hot it gets and how cold it gets. It's not just about how cold it gets, but also is about how hot it gets, and rainfall and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really, really great way to know what grows in your zone. own, and is like the most, it's a book I couldn't live without. So if you are a gardener and you don't have yourself a sunset Western or Western sunset guide, go get one because they're really, really amazing, and everybody should have one. It'll tell you everything you ever need to know about any plant that you can possibly get your hands on here in Southern California and Oregon, Washington, Arizona, and Utah as well. So have one of those books. They're really, really important.
Okay, our last question is actually about lavender. Does it need to be watered every day?
No, so when it comes to watering, nothing really wants to be watered every single day. There are some exceptions, but most plants in the ground or in a large enough container, that's key, large enough container, does not need to be watered every single day. You want the top of the soil to actually get dried out. You want the low soil to be wet. So the key is watering slow and low and deeply, and then cutting it for a few days so the top of the soil has a chance to dry out. The exceptions to this are when you have something like a hanging basket and you have a really big plant and a small little hanging basket. You might have to water that every single day because it doesn't have a lot of root space, doesn't have a lot of soil space, right? If you plant something in too small of a container, you might have to water a whole lot more than a big container. So I always tell everybody, my rule of rule of thumb for everybody is get the biggest container you can possibly handle for your plant, because it's just going to make it so much easier on you because you're not going to have to water all the time. The plant will ultimately be really happy too because it's not going to be restricted in the container as well. So lavender is very, very drought tolerant. If you've ever been down to the lavender fields down in the San Diego area, most of the soil is super sandy. I watched a really interesting little video about that, but they have very, very, very sandy soil. So they water pretty frequently because the soil doesn't hold a lot of water because of the sand in there. But here we do not have sandy soil. If you've ever looked at your soil, probably have really clay soil, real dusty when you touch it. So it holds a lot of water. So you want to make sure that your lavender roots are going really, really low, searching for that low water, but the top is getting dried out. You think about other places that lavender grow, like Italy and things like that, very similar weather to what we have. So they don't need to be watered every day. Most things don't, except for hanging baskets, very, very small pots, some of your carnivorous plants and things like that, but you don't need to water every single day. No. So anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. If you've come into this late and you still have questions, just add them down below. We will answer those questions for you. Make sure that you subscribe to our Instagram and our Facebook page, and check out our YouTube page. There's so much amazing stuff that never gets put on our Facebook page, and things from years past that you can look back on. Just the other day, we were looking at all the Christmas videos, because we always do a really beautiful video for Halloween and for Christmas. They're so well done. It's like watching a mini movie. So it's really, really neat to see all the different things that we've done. And then definitely check out getting on to our email list, because you will find out the official days for opening for Halloween and for Christmas and all the different things that we have, the sales going on, all that amazing stuff going on there. So you will be the first one to know about what's going on here in the garden. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really love doing this with you. It's so fun to talk to you about all the different cool plants that we have going on here. On Tuesdays, you see Suzanne. She talks about different gardening topics. On Thursday, I'm going to be introducing to you the different plants of the week for the hummingbird. We have a lot more stuff going on still. It's really, really fun time here in the garden, and come and check out all the beautiful hummingbirds and all the gorgeous monarchs we have just going all over the place. We don't pay them. They just come here because they love us. So thank you so much. Goodbye. We'll see you later.